Hey guys, it's Matt. My mood this morning is not a joking one. However, as usual, it'll break down along the way if you want to stick with this video, however long it goes. This is more of a reciteer presentation. That means serious to anybody that's new. I try to avoid the word for reasons that the old guard understands. I want to talk about my latest understanding regarding the magenta presentation, the magenta, and the pairing with the emerald green. So I'm watching this Philly Captain video yesterday. Of course, I screenshotted somebody lighting their house up in the magenta. By the way, the Philly Captain, if you just want to have fun and roll with somebody on their scooter through all different parts of Philadelphia, check him out. The Philly Captain. He'll come right, here we are. If you want to hear the biggest Philly accent of all time, it's a complete escapism for me. I like going over the Philly Captain. But of course, the first house that's lit up from the inside in a certain color is, of course, the magenta. And we see this over and over again in terms of the houses you see lit up on random in a video or as you're driving. Or it's like 60% magenta. They always choose the same color. Well, Matt, that's what the store sells. Yeah, I understand that. We'll get to that. Then you see maybe 30% emerald green. It's always the magenta paired with the emerald green, or the emerald green is down the block. I'll show you that in a moment. And then maybe 10% some other color. So I don't just want to complain about this, guys. I want to get into a pretty reciteer conversation as to how the magenta is a symptom of what's happening to our metaphysical reality. It's not just people screwing in bulbs and let me light the house up before I go out. Is the person still in the house when they light their house up in magenta? Who would want to sit in that living room? Who would want to bathe in that light? I guess they put those lights on as they go out. It's just strange. But it's almost always magenta or emerald green. And it's not just people lighting their houses up. I'll show you. Let me just show you this now so you know how strange this presentation will get very soon. A quick disclaimer or warning, in terms of what's coming, only the oldest of the old guard with the most experience will just accept the following as, yeah, Matt, we understand this. It's not a big deal. It'll be water off a duck's back to the old guard. But this is, or what follows is truly bizarre, bordering on the insane to anybody new. That's why I'm holding back the jokes. I'm trying to present myself as a sane and competent and rational individual, at least in this narration, before we begin. I've been studying reality for 15 years. For 6 or 7 of those years at least was completely fooled and taking reality's bait and studying and chasing the conspiracy of the month. And we understand what this reality is all about and how it gets those interested in truth, or those that see the world isn't quite what the news presents. It gets them to chase false breadcrumbs, and then it takes years, but we get out of that. Been studying this for 15 years. And it's not culture or society. It's not just culture or society that changes. Metaphysical reality itself. I don't know how to talk about it. The English language didn't give me no good words to talk about it in this. At the quantum level, at the metaphysical level, reality itself is shifting, and the new century, the new millennium, has allowed it to move much more quickly than we ever could have anticipated. Well, there's no reason to beat around the bush. Let me just jump right into a conversation that literally would be considered insane if anybody stumbled upon this video, or that family member is coming back to watch my videos. But know this before we start. There are thousands of old guard here that won't be fazed by this in any way. In fact, they'll say, yeah, man, we knew this. Yeah, Dad, you told us. They know this. I mean, this is normal. No, it's never normal, but you know what I mean? They accept it. It's not that crazy. Okay, let me just jump right into it. Sorry. This is an old video of somebody dressed like Darth Vader walking through the mall. I'll show you other pictures where the magenta off the helmet is much more, it's not Lord Helmet from Spaceballs. It's somebody dressed as Darth Vader as they're walking through the mall. You can see some of the magenta in the helmet. I have much more to show you. We'll just start here. This is the clearest image of Darth Vader. You can obviously see the helmet. In the close-ups, you can't. What I'm saying is, what Gus is saying here from the right stuff is, the magenta that appears in this old video did not exist in the original video. nor was there magenta lights in the mall. You remember going to the mall, right, in the 70s and 80s and 90s before they started to close down. I guess they all started to close down just 4 or 5 years ago. When you looked up, you see a lot of magenta lights beaming. No, it's mostly white and fluorescent. There were no magenta lights. The magenta is slowly bleeding into old video. It's bleeding into the entire reality as a symptom as to where reality is going, moving away from the real towards the fake, moving away from the analog towards the digital. But it's showing up in old videos. Now, I've talked about our friend, the researcher, Jeff, and there's others that have confirmed this too, but nobody's put in the time that Jeff has over, say, the past 4 years. He's found magenta flashes in old Woodrow Wilson inauguration videos, or I don't remember the exact president. I'm sorry. Oh, Matt, Woodrow, was the camera even invented then? It doesn't matter, I think so. Yeah, of course. But I mean, if I forget the exact details of some of the things Jeff presented. So if I quote it, maybe it's a little off, but I remember what he showed me. And we both agree, was the magenta there if you were walking behind Darth Vader in the mall? No, it did not exist. Was the magenta in the original video? No, it was not in the original video. And YouTube didn't take it, and they're adding magenta because they want everybody to view the magenta. That's a form of mind control. That is something to consider. But we don't believe that. We don't believe the video's been tampered. We believe, per a symptom of reality itself, magenta is bleeding through old video, existing in old video, at least to a degree or magnitude where it did not exist when it was originally filmed. As the video rolls on, again, these are screenshots. I'm afraid to show you any video from anybody else's video, but we don't need to in this case. I have various screenshots of not just the magenta very clearly showing up on Darth Vader's helmet, but also the emerald green. I'll show you there's a little bit of emerald green to the bottom left, but much more prominent, the pairing of the magenta with the emerald green. And again, one last time, I understand how insane this sounds to anybody that's relatively new. I mean, this is literally the stuff that says, boy, is there any family member we could call to get Matt locked away? Now, the old guard, again, this is no big deal because we've seen together. We're going to be one. We've seen reality break down together. Reality is broken down to such a degree that actually finding explanations or understanding how it's showing itself to be in breakdown mode with symptoms and examples like this are actually quite comforting. It kind of confirms if everything was just happening in terms of the insane asylum, say we see in CNN headlines, what's happening now with Trump and all that. If it was just happening without these sort of strange symptoms, I think that would be worse. I think that would be worse. At least if we can show here the symptoms of all of metaphysical reality breaking down, well, that's kind of the best news of all time. You living in a fake world is the best news of all time. I'm not sure we'll get to that. We typically get to that a lot nowadays. But what I'm saying, what Gus is saying here from the right stuff, if anybody's new, is you clearly see magenta, there's little shades of reddish and purple, but mostly just magenta, a wavelength that supposedly doesn't exist, that doesn't appear in the Roy G. Biv regular visible light spectrum. It supposedly has no wavelength. It is some sort of an optical illusion. They say there are different opinions on how the magenta presents itself in this reality. There's no wavelength. Matt, your mind, somebody will get a Pootie Tang award if they're trying to tell me about the magenta right now and how your mind plays tricks like, well, I know, Pootie Tang award. We've been looking at the magenta very closely now for about 4 years. Yeah, I know. It is like an illusion, but that's very apt because this world is an illusion. In the old century, it was a very believable illusion. It was a professional presentation. Maybe it's separated by century, maybe it's separated by millennium. Millennia, I guess is the plural, by the millennium. That's more likely. That the old millennium was more normal, and this millennium's real fucked up. But maybe it's the turn of the century. Either way, it was probably September, you-know-what date. 2001, to me, was the first date of the new millennium. Well, it's January 1, you jackass. Oh, really? You just trust the calendar they give you. Yeah, you trust the astrology they give you. You trust it. At least I like what Levette said years ago. I don't have no idea what Levette's up to. I wish her well. It's been years and years. But 7, 8 years ago, she taught me a lot listening to Levette. I always wish her well. But one of the first things I remember her saying is never trust anything they give you. But of course they didn't give you you think the astrology that they give you and they support is exactly right? No, they're going to hold things back. They're going to they're going to send you astray in everything they do, in everything they give us, let alone the astrology. So why would I believe the calendar? Why would I believe January 1 of 2000 was the start of the new millennium? Of course I don't. It's much more likely it was September, per their own strange, bizarro astrology or whatever they do. They can't get up in the morning unless Jupiter's rising in a certain constellation. They're strange birds, how they deal with their astrology. I don't care about that stuff. I don't care about none of it. I'm here to worry about myself, worry about yourself. I'm here to do what I need to do. I don't care where Jupiter's rising and what constellation tomorrow. I understand many people here are interested in astrology, and astrology is very predictive. No doubt about it. The whole as above, so below thing. You think the Kabbalion, you think some jackass just made that up? As above, so below? No, it's real, of course. Sorry to stray. Here's another image and another close-up where the magenta is very prominent, but also there's that line or streak of emerald green surrounding the magenta. They're always paired together. Now, what I'm saying is if you were in the mall back in whenever it was, the late 70s or early 80s, when this video was taken, or whatever, maybe it was 89, 90 something, it doesn't matter, it's an old video, and Darth Vader walked by, you would have seen no magenta in the helmet, no emerald green in the helmet. When you watch the video itself, I'm just screenshotting here. I'm not like getting lucky with my screenshots. When Darth Vader walks by in the video, you can clearly see the magenta flashing across the helmet. What I'm saying is there were no magenta lights if you were there in 82, whenever this was done. There was no emerald green lights. There was no magenta or emerald green. What I'm saying, and what Jeff would confirm, is if you saw the original video, just in that moment, you played it back as you were there was always a Dairy Queen in the mall. My dad used to say, went to Chocolate Jimmy's. They're sprinkles, but we call them Jimmy's for some reason here in Philadelphia. Isn't that weird? Yeah. Give me the Chocolate Jimmy's. Let me see the video. There's no magenta or emerald green as you watch the original video. The video has changed over time, and the digital is some sort of a conduit. So the magenta, and often paired with the emerald green, can bleed into this new reality, a reality that is metaphysically and fundamentally and quantumly different. I don't know if I'm using all the correct terms. I don't know what terms to use in terms of having this sort of conversation. This reality is different metaphysically than the one you knew if you're over a certain age from the last century or millennium. And the difference, and it shows itself in many, many ways, of course, but one way is magenta as a symptom bleeding through old video where that magenta color did not even exist, or at least it didn't exist as prominently in the original video. No, I don't believe it's been tampered with by any platform or any large tech company to have people's eyes in 2025 absorb the magenta, and that's on mine. Matt, just staring at this is somewhat dangerous. No, it's not. Not for the people here in the armor we've put on. Just you've done your affirmations. None of this affects us. Of course, I was watching Excalibur the other day, the old Excalibur, and all the spells are in Latin. And every time, even though I've done the affirmation 1,000 times, say that doesn't work on me. Whatever that Latin they're spewing out, it does creep me out. And I always kick myself. Well, Matt, you've done that affirmation. Why do you keep doing it? Like you don't believe your own affirmation. I always give the affirmation. That doesn't work on me. Whatever. Because anyway, the Latin spells in the old movies or even in Ready Player One really do disturb me. The parcel tongue, whatever, the snake tongue in Harry Potter. We just have to yell out. Could you imagine if I was on a date and we were holding hands or something? That doesn't work on me. She's like, get me the F out of here. Who the F are you, dude? Your profile, you look somewhat normal. Now you're this conspiracy jerk. If I was on a date during Harry Potter, was it the second one, the Chamber of Secrets, where he did that snake tongue, that doesn't fucking work on me. And the date would be like, get me the fuck out of here. Sorry. I swear, I was watching Excalibur, and I had to say that. But why was I talking about? Oh, the Excalibur, by the way, has huge emerald green and magenta presentation as well. And I think Jeff would agree that if you were watching the original Excalibur in the movie theater, little bits would be there, but it wouldn't be there like it is now. It has changed. Nobody changed it. You can't think of it in terms of somebody took it to a lab, and that's not the way this reality works. In reality, you can't say it's breaking down over here into the insane and then say my theories on some of the symptoms that it's showing as it's breaking down are insane. I mean, one does not preclude the other. If it's going insane over here, then my theories, actually, to many people, are somewhat normal. And finally, here's a screenshot where just the emerald green, with a touch of blue, but I think you could call that the emerald green, is running down the very end of Darth Vader's helmet. There is no magenta here. And I think earlier I said the magenta is always paired with the emerald green. No, of course not always. When you see one, though, you might see the other one a few seconds or a few minutes later. They're in close proximity. No, they're not always paired. But for some reason, this reality loves to pair them. And it could be, again, it's not just the way it's bleeding through old videos. Somebody showed me an old footage of, well, it's not that old, a Tears for Fears concert, their reunion tour a year and a half ago. And the whole stage is dominated by the emerald green and magenta. That's not bleeding through reality. That somebody chose to put the magenta lights in. Somebody, for some reason, chose... somebody likely on the download on the frequency chose the magenta lights and the emerald green lights. So back to me watching that Philly Captain video. This is another home in, I guess, the Port Richmond area, not too far from Aramingo Avenue, that's lit up in magenta. This isn't the one I showed you before. This is another one he rolls by on his scooter. But in terms of what I showed you before, that first magenta home, just a minute later, of course, he comes across the barber shop. It's pretty late, probably close to dark, 9 o'clock. It's closed, but it's lit up in the emerald green. And of course, these types of presentations are the opposite end of the spectrum to what I was talking about in the old video with the Darth Vader helmet. Nothing's bleeding through reality, of course. He just rolled by these places a few days ago in a recent video. Somebody picked up the physical bulb and chose the emerald green for some weird reason to put it in their store front window. Somebody chose to bathe their living room in magenta with a real bulb. Nothing is bleeding through reality. I mean, it's the opposite end of the spectrum. But is it really that much different? Think about it. People, why are they choosing these colors? The download, the frequency, the radio station, they're on, you could call it mind control, call it whatever you want. And if somebody's barking out, well, Matt, they want to light their homes up because this is being trendy and the stores only sell emerald green and magenta. They don't sell all the Roy G. Biv. It's the same thing. If that's the case, and the stores and the manufacturers are only selling or prominently pushing magenta, bathe your living room in this color, and somebody grabs it as a point of purchase item on the way out. We learned that in marketing. That was worth all the money I spent at Penn State. All that shit on the way you're waiting in line or snaking around line like at Ross and TJ Maxx. You snake around in Home Goods and that shit. Now you have all these things that's called point of purchase, POP. That made it okay that I spent all that money on the useless marketing degree. If they're at the stores and the only thing available are these colors, well, that's just as strange because the store owners then are on the download. The manufacturers are on the download. Why would they think to only offer this? If anybody's on the download, then that's not that much stranger than me saying it's bleeding through reality itself. They go hand in hand. But these examples are on completely and opposite ends of the spectrum. This is more real. This is more physical. Somebody chose a green bulb or a magenta bulb. A manufacturer decided at their assembly line, these are the bulbs we're going to make. It's more, quote, real. Where on the other example of Darth Vader, of course, I'm saying it's like a Mandela effect to a degree. It wasn't there in the original video. It wasn't there in the original mall experience. There were no magenta lights above Darth Vader. There were no emerald green lights. That's not something. Think about walking through a mall in the 80s or 90s. Of course, those lights weren't there. It's not a damn rock concert. It's just a damn mall. And then, of course, what's at the bottom, we have examples like this, where somebody at a large corporation or a bot or an AI making a decision for a large corporation chose the magenta in whatever marketing effort that they're trying to put forth. T-Mobile, it's not like a changed reality. Somebody way back when chose magenta as their primary color. T-Mobile is Deutsche Telekom. It's a gigantic, humongous company like AT&T. There can be a little T-Mobile here in the U.S. No, that's Deutsche Telekom. Probably has relations all the way back to 1940-something. Absolutely does. You know, if you know what I'm talking about there. I mean, they chose magenta. And to this day, people still email me. I just got one about a week ago. Matt, I got an email. I achieved magenta status. T-Mobile told me I achieved magenta status. And I said, boy, you feel lucky, don't you? Boy, you're a blessed soul. You have magenta status now from T-Mobile. What does the Old Testament say about somebody achieving magenta status? It's got to be in there. Oh, I'm not supposed to speak about, I'm never supposed to even mention the Bible. Matt, you stick with your magenta, you stick with your fireplaces, and you stick with your not. And they'll go, oh, I'm sorry. I bet, is magenta status in there? Is that the Ten Commandments? Achieving magenta status is something that everybody needs to strive for. Sorry, see, it's starting to break down a bit. I'm going to try to hold it together for just a few more minutes. See, this again is more, assume it was somebody at the corporation and somebody in a smoking room that made the decision to go with magenta in whatever their marketing effort was. It's more real. But is it? The person chose the magenta, in my opinion, in the opinion of the old guard, sorry to speak for you, but I know you agree with me on this, because they're on a download. They always have to push forth what the not milk wants. If they don't have any idea what they're doing, they know not what they do. Let's use all magenta for our marketing effort. And it can't be over the top. First and foremost, this reality has to be believable. What if Coca-Cola just decided to abandon the red and went all magenta, and then Toyota went all magenta? I mean, it would, at some point, we would have things to talk about with our family and friends that have already classified us as the outcasts. If it goes too far, then even the dumbest of the dumb will wake up. So it can't go too far. Coca-Cola is not going to change to all magenta, but it does as much as it can. 4 or 5 years ago, and right about the time, Pantone Color of the Year, but it was even before that, we started noticing just just magenta everywhere. And again, props to Steffers and her people that were the first one to really dive into this. I was the original one to point out the overuse of the emerald green, but this magenta stuff came from Steffers and her blogger people, her peeps. But I've given her, I always want to give credit where credit's due. I'm the first one to bring this to a YouTube platform and continue to talk about it and continue to analyze, what is happening here. And Jeff might have been the first, or probably was, to say this is, look at the magenta popping up in old videos, even black and white. I've had people, it happens all the time. Imagine all the emails I get, all the stories I get. I had people watching movies in a theater where like the thing glitched for a second or two and it was just an all magenta picture. Have you ever seen, I've never seen a movie theater glitch at all. I've never seen weird colors flash. And of all the colors in all the world, it glitched magenta. And people have sent me screenshots of certain things where they're watching television and just half of it goes magenta. Remember the original OpenAI logo? It's changed. It doesn't do this anymore, I don't believe. Every logo seems to have gotten more simple and more dumbed down, but the original was the magenta blending into the emerald green. So for our conclusion, at least where we are right now, we may learn more next week, is the emerald green evil? Not in any way, in my opinion. The emerald green to me represents the illusory nature of this reality. It's always been here. The grass is green. It's a very natural and normal thing. This world is an illusion. It was meant to be an illusion. Doesn't mean it's an AI simulation. Everybody goes there, oh, you think we live in the Matrix? Matt always pushing AI. No, it's a natural illusion. It was designed to be this way. It's not very real. It's fluid, and the emerald green is a natural part of it. I welcome the emerald green. The Wizard of Oz, whatever it may be. Now, the magenta, that's different. Is that the evil? Yeah, but I mean, in the most basic and rudimentary sense, yes. But don't not look at it or turn away from it. And there's magenta azalea bushes that I have here. And as long as you understand how the knot milk is using it, or what the knot milk is out to do with it, and you have your armor on, right? We all do. You have your affirmations on. Whatever it's trying to do, mind control, it doesn't work on us. Therefore, it's a beautiful color. I'm just saying it's evil just to start with the absolute basics. You can see one side is sinister. The emerald green is not. I think it's almost like the knot milk tried to use the emerald green in so many different things, or tried to hijack it. It Daisy's dock at the end of at least the movie of the Gatsby. I'm not sure how it's presented in the book, but it's emerald green. The Wizard of Oz, emerald. It's almost like they tried to hijack it, and now they've moved on to the magenta. Whatever that means to you. But no, I don't run away from the magenta. It's a beautiful color, and who knows if it exists as an illusion? It's not really in the Roy G. Biv spectrum. Whatever. We don't care. We don't care about any of that. If I see it in an azalea bush, I think it's very pretty. I'm not going to cut the bush down. Okay. So, but there, in some way, the magenta is bleeding through reality as a symptom of a, quote, real world becoming more fake. It's bleeding through reality on one end of the spectrum, where anything that was considered analog or more real is being replaced by the digital and the AI and the fantasy world and the digital environments. And the magenta is a symptom of that. It's not always planted by creeps, in my opinion, just like the Darth Vader helmet. It bleeds through reality in different ways. At the other end of the spectrum, where it's not bleeding through reality, those that serve the knot milk as their master will choose to push the magenta out into society, the way T-Mobile has chosen its magenta and its magenta status, and OpenAI has chosen this for the logo. Whoever picked this logo out or designed it is on the download, in my opinion. They didn't sit around in a sinister way like the Legion of Doom and say, oh, let's do this, and I can't wait till we show the magenta to the people and they'll become even more mind-controlled. I don't think they know what they do. I think 99% that serve the knot milk have no idea what they're doing. They're on the download and the frequency. Person put this together thought it was pretty pictures. I know a lot of you are pushing back, Matt. They knew exactly what they were doing. I don't think as many people are in the know as you think. Okay, we'll debate that and argue about that some other time. People are if they're on the download and the frequency, and they're following along and they know not what they do, then they're not sitting around with evil laughs in the smoking rooms. It's one or the other. If they're consciously knowing every bit of what they're putting out and how it will affect the people, then it's not the download. Okay, so anyway, I choose the download. It doesn't really matter. In the end, the result is the same. The corporations and they push this out. And somehow, to me, there's no other explanation. The magenta, in some way, influences the masses, influences the people. Street lamps, are popping up purple and magenta all over the place. And there's still people making videos apologizing for it, saying how the manufacturer of the bulb was incorrect and certain gases in the bulbs were left out, so they turned magenta. There's the videos, they're on the download too. The videos make excuses for it and apologize for it. They're still making videos. I think these videos are still popping up after almost 5 years, how streetlights are turning purple and magenta. If it was a problem with the manufacturer or the jumper net facility in China, then it would have been fixed in about 10 days. They said, okay, this is happening. We can't have any more purple or magenta street lamps. Make sure you check whatever your array of gases is going. However they do it. I don't know. They would have fixed it inside of 4 hours. It wouldn't be going on years and years later unless it's intended in some way. But first and foremost, knot milk, and I know you're listening, first and foremost, knot milk knows. And it's the first rule of knot milk. It's what knot milk learned as a little child entity hovering, living under a rock somewhere, that this reality to the people, first and foremost, needs to be believed in. Crazies like us, the outcasts, can say it's fake and it's real and it's fluid. As long as the people look at us like, oh, that's those people. That's those jerks like Matt and all the people that listen to those sorts of channels, they'll talk fluid reality and reality breakdowns, and we've proved them to be insane. They were, per the old conspiracy stuff, they've proven us to be the boy and girl that cried wolf. We're outcasts. They did a heck of a job with us. Thanks a lot. Very impressive, Not Milk, what you did to us, but I don't care. It doesn't. We were never going to wake the people up with whatever we had anyway. So what I was saying was, Not Milk knows this world has to be believed in by the people. It might want to use magenta on everything, in every logo. Change Coca-Cola to all magenta. Change Pepsi to all magenta. Change Columbia Pictures. Instead of a torch of white, she holds up a torch of magenta. Even the dumbest of the dumb would start to come around and say, the world is all becoming magenta. They might question it. They know that the real spiritual being is mind controlled as it is. That light, that real spirit will always burn, will always flicker, cannot be completely snuffed out, right? No consequences, people. It's always there. If they go too far, it knows. It's an expert at Goldilocks. Not too hot, not too cold, and it's an expert at getting that porridge just right. Where we see it, whether it be the absurdity of a mall event or a school event or the magenta everywhere or people lighting up, bathing their homes in Port Richmond in magenta, and movies made bad on purpose and songs made bad on purpose, and we see it clearly, but it's just not enough. Where the people around us, the dumbest of the dumb, it's just not enough where we're just one of those people. And it's just the way society evolves, Matt. Why do you have to be one of those people? It's expert at splitting the line, getting the dividing line perfect. It's expert. We see it, but that's fine. That's fine. They weren't meant to wake up in this lifetime or the next, and they told two friends, and they told two friends, and so on, and that's fine. Not Milk, you are a master at the Goldilocks. So whatever it may be, we'll continue to see it, and your neighbor won't. It's okay. That's fine. But obviously, the magenta. The whole point of me this last few minutes is they can't go too far. They can't paint the world in magenta, or the real spiritual entity that's still left, the light that's left in people will wake up to it. That is always possible if they go too far. But it is used in some way as how whatever frequency or download it wants to put the masses on or into, the magenta is used by the Not Milk, no doubt. The prominence of magenta in the last 5 to 7 years has been 10,000% more, in my opinion. I don't have an exact number. I didn't go to Cambridge and crunch the numbers, but you know what I mean. It was not like this 8, 9, 10 years ago. And then we could do a whole nother video. Well, why? What allowed it to start using the magenta in terms of facilitating its frequencies on the people and its mind control? Who knows? I mean, we'll never be able to sit in the back of the back room in the creepy table and see what they're talking about. That's the thing that's so funny about it. There might not even be a creepy table. You know where I'm going. That it just those that are on the frequency of Not Milk, almost for the most part, know not what they do. We always picture this creepy table, and Disney knows exactly what it's doing in its own demise. And you could put them all on real lie detector tests and say, Kathleen Kennedy, why are you making your shit bad on purpose? Why you put your re, your po, your fin in that turd crap out of your do, re, mi, fa, so, re, po, fin, do? Why you put that shit out? And she's like, we're trying our best, Matt. I do believe they're on the download more than it's just the old truth or notion. It's all sinister, like the devil character in Tom Cruise's Legend, played by Tim Curry at the end. That's pretty terrible. Tim Curry did it, but Tim Curry also played the you-know-what. I can't even say it. The video won't load. He played that certain type of Trans-Siberian Railroad passenger as the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Tim Curry, you played some weird characters, dude. Sorry, man. So they're not just laughing like the devils, knowing what I think they're on the frequency. I think they know not what they do. We'll debate that. Don't get too upset with me, certain truthers, that they're all in the know. They know exactly what they're doing. Okay, maybe I've gone too far in that direction. I'll come back to where you are. I'm open to it, but that's not the purpose of this presentation. There's no doubt, whether you think there's a creepy back room or not. Again, I don't think there is any boss level, any final bad guy to find here in this reality. But the 99% that put out the Magenta, they're doing what the Not Milk wants. It facilitates a mind control of some sort. Who knows? And they have no idea what they're doing. They're not laughing over cognac. Anyway, we'll debate that some other time. But there's no doubt in my mind. Let's just back up to where we would all agree. Everybody here agrees that the Magenta is being, for lack of a term, overused or used. Well, Matt, if it's so, why are they using it now? Why didn't, if it was so successful for the Not Milk, why didn't they use it 10 or 15 years ago? Why didn't they paint the entire elementary school of sandy beaches? Beaches. Why didn't they paint the whole school of that color if it's so useful to them? I don't know. I don't know why it's a tool that seems to be available to them in the last 10 years, where I know you can find little examples of Magenta popping up with corporations going back a long way. And at some point, Magenta made the Crayola crayon box when it wasn't there initially, but it found its way in by like the 70s or the 80s. It found its way in pretty early. But why this weaponization, what they're able to do with it recently, wasn't available to them, certainly wasn't available to them in the last century or millennium. I don't think it was available to them in 2002, 3, 4, 5. But who knows why? It doesn't matter. As usual, we have armor. We're immune to it. I'll look right at the Magenta and I'll say, isn't that pretty? I like it. I'm not going to be afraid of it or chop the Magenta azalea bushes down. That's the exact opposite of what we should do. Say it once and say it forever. Hey, Not Milk, whatever you're trying to do with this color, it doesn't work on me, and it never will. That's it. You're done. Go buy all the Magenta plants up from the gardening shop and put them in your house. It's cool. It doesn't work on us as usual. And could you imagine if if that family member stumbled upon this video? Actually, just like the person that called 911, those types of people with the straitjackets are probably coming for me right now. Thanks for listening, because I'm not sure they'll let me continue to make videos from the Norristown State Asylum. I think that's the closest one of where I would go. Thanks for listening.